Es gibt ein paar Klischees.
Okay.
Ich mag es auch, dass mehr
So, einen wunderschönen guten Abend. Ich bitte bitte um eure Aufmerksamkeit. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr mich kennt, alle. Ich glaube nicht. Ich kenne euch alle auch nicht. Ich weiß nicht, ob wir eine kurze Vorstellung machen, aber das werden wir jetzt mal lassen. Mein Name ist Joseph Nasseri. Ich bin Chemiker vom Beruf. Mit Doktortitel. Ich habe hier in Münster studiert und ich arbeite auch in Münster. Schon seit über 28 Jahren in Münster schon. Wir sind heute hier gekommen für einen besonderen Einlass oder einen besonderen Anlass. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich auf Deutsch oder auf Englisch oder auf Französisch, aber ich denke, wir verstehen schon alle Sprachen hier. Ich werde versuchen, weil unser Hauptmann, der selber versteht kein Deutsch, ich werde versuchen, auch auf Englisch zu sprechen. Heute wollen wir sein Buch präsentieren. Er hat ein wunderschönes Buch geschrieben. Und das Titel heißt häusliche Gewalt. Ja, häusliche Gewalt an Männern. Also das ist was ganz anderes, als was man kennt. Ja, meistens ist Gewalt oder kommt mehr vom Mann aus an der Frau. Aber er hat halt diese Aufgabe genommen, andersrum zu sehen. Das heißt Gewalt an Männern und Frauen. Heute wollen wir halt das Buch präsentieren und deshalb sind wir hier. Und ich möchte deshalb Herrn Abongwa, der aus Finnland kommt, der wohnt auch hier bei uns mit einer ganz schönen Familie, die auch hier anwesend ist. Bevor ich Ihnen halt das Wort gebe, ich möchte auch ein bisschen übersetzen, was ich gesagt habe auf Englisch, damit er auch versteht, was ich gesagt habe. Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, what I'm saying is that I've studied here in Münster, along I'm a chemist. So today we want to present your book, which is entitled, you know what the title is,
yes.
Right? That is, so I don't really want to say in English because you know what that is.
Yes.
I already said it in German. So now I want to give you the floor to say one or two words and then we can move forward.
All right.
Okay, so please, let's give a hand for Chair, please. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes. All right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen,
maybe we can move a little bit forward. Yeah. Are they hearing? By the way, can you
hear?
Hearing? Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to come closer?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
like this.
Something like this.
Yes.
Yeah, but it means we have to take this a little bit behind. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you for joining me today as we open the pages of a book that dares to challenge deeply entrenched stereotypes and shed light on a largely overlooked issue: male victimization in domestic violence. The title of my book, Behind Closed Doors: Male Experience of Domestic Violence in the Age of Denial, captures its essence. It's a raw and honest exploration of the suffering that many men in silence endure. Their experiences often dismissed or denied by societal norms that fail to recognize their pain. When women experience domestic violence, they exhibit trauma responses: fight, flight, or freeze. Human reactions to unimaginable pain. These responses are rightly interpreted as evidence of their suffering, and robust support services are mobilized to help. But let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine if I were to harm a pet right here and now. How would you react? Some of you will leap forward to stop me in defense of the innocent pet. Fight. Some of you will walk out of this room in shock. Flight. While some of you again will stay put on your seats, paralyzed, not knowing what to do. Freeze. These are instinctive responses to witnessing harm. Now, imagine a man in a similar situation of domestic violence. When he exhibits these same responses, especially when the perpetrator is a woman, society responds differently. Instead of empathy, he faces stigma, disbelief, and even blame, driven by outdated stereotypes that men are too strong to be targets of domestic violence. This book tells stories of men like Tami Weissenberg from Germany, Earl Silverman from Canada, Denis, an Australian, and more. Men who have faced not only abuse but also systemic denial of their experiences. These are not just isolated stories, they reflect a global reality. In New Zealand, for example, the police respond to a domestic violence incident every 3 minutes. In Germany, 1 in 3 men, 1 in 3 women are victims of domestic violence. Yet, the support provided to male survivors pale in comparison to that for female survivors. Consider this shocking disparity. In Germany, there are 380 shelters for women, but only 15 for men. In Africa, men are not even included in domestic violence surveys. Earl Silverman's story is a heartbreaking example. He fled an abusive marriage only to find that services provided to him were consistently branded to him as a perpetrator instead of a survivor. In despair, he took his own life. That was a tragedy. In the United States, there are approximately 2,000 shelters for women, supporting a combined total of 91,000 female survivors and 131,000 of their children. Men who also face domestic violence at similar rates are left with only 2 shelters nationwide. The first opening 2015, the second opening 2017. This means countless men and hundreds of thousands of their children are left without support. In the United States alone, 18 million children are without such support. Now, replicate this figure, which is growing by the day around the world, to get the sheer scale of the problem. Denis, an Australian survivor, endured repeated abuse, including rape. His cries for help went unanswered, leaving his children to grow up with an abusive mother. This neglect fuels the epidemic of fatherlessness, with far-reaching consequences for all of us. Countless studies show that domestic violence has a profound impact on children. As Barack Obama said, open quote, "Children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in prisons. They are more likely to have behavioral problems, run away from home, or become teenage parents themselves." End quote. Recognizing male experiences of domestic violence doesn't detract from the struggles of female survivors. It strengthens the fight against domestic violence as a public health crisis, as noted by the World Health Organization. New Zealand provides a hopeful example. In 2018, it enacted gender-inclusive domestic violence legislation. Today, men, women, same-gender loving, and their children are safer because of this inclusive approach. After the 2018 Domestic Violence Act went into effect, the New Zealand Police Department had this to say, open quote, "Men should never think their partner's violence is their fault. The violent partner is the one making a choice to be violent against them and maybe the children in the relationship. They choose whether they will slap a man's face because he said something they didn't like. They choose whether to lash out and scream at the family because they are feeling unwell. If violence against women is unacceptable and without excuse, shouldn't violence against men also be?" End quote. Advocates like Steve Fitzgerald, who helped establish the first male shelters in the United Kingdom, have called out the stark imbalance in support services, describing it as a gender apartheid. Similarly, Paige Flink, a pioneer of male shelters in the United States, encourages men to overcome stigma, saying, open quote, "We are trying to help men understand that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be vulnerable. End quote. To address this gap, I've created a private Facebook support group offering free assistance to men experiencing domestic violence. In Behind Closed Doors, I propose solutions to end the denial of male victimization, emphasizing that health, safety, and happiness are universal human rights. Support services should be accessible to all, much like universal health care. Expanding these services ensures justice and humanity for everyone, recognizing that no survivor should be left behind. This book is more than a collection of stories. It's a call to action. It's a plea to end the silence, to confront the denial, and to extend compassion and support to all survivors, regardless of gender. I invite you to explore the pages of Behind Closed Doors, to hear these voices, and to join the conversation. Together, we can challenge the status quo, foster understanding, and create a world where no survivor feels invisible. This is our mandate. Thank you.
Ja. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich das alles übersetzen soll, aber ich gehe davon aus, dass wir teilweise verstanden haben, was er meint. Ich werde nur so ein paar Punkte nehmen, die er erwähnt hat. Die Tatsache, dass er aus Lebensbeispiele genommen hat. Beispiele aus Afrika, aus Europa, aus Australien. Also für mich war tragisch, was halt mit Herrn Silva, heißt er, Herr Silva, the person who killed himself.
It's Canadian.
A Canadian. Einer aus Kanada, der sich auch selber umgebracht hat. Aus der Ehe. Er hatte Gewalt auch erfahren. Und weil diese Gewalt an Männern nicht so ausgeprägt ist wie Gewalt an Frauen. Er hat sich umgebracht, weil die Leute haben ihn einfach nicht verstanden, was er meinte. Ja, und das ist einfach der Inhalt dieses Buches. Er hat mit seinem Resümee, ich glaube, über 40 oder 60% des Inhaltes schon gesagt. Und ich finde das sehr interessant, diese Beispiele, was er genannt hat. Und er lädt uns einfach die Seiten des Buches einfach zu entdecken. Ja? Und das heißt, hinter verschlossenen Türen, also ne, wenn wir den Mut haben, sollten wir dieses Buch haben. Und, also ich persönlich, ich werde eine Kopie selber kaufen. Nicht, dass ich selber aus eigenem Leib was erfahre, aber ich finde es einfach interessant. Ja? Und ich lade euch auch ein, das zu entdecken, was er hier gesagt hat. Und ja, und dann, wenn wir halt in die zweite Phase des heutigen Abends gehen, Herr Abongwa wollte, dass wir eine Übung machen. Und yeah, so you wanted us to do an exercise?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So I don't know how this is going to be.
Oh, it's okay. They can
Right.
stay on their seats.
Okay.
It's just to listen carefully, right? And this is not a trick question. All right. Now, a father and the son are in the car. They had an accident. The father tragically died. The son rushed to the hospital, emergency. The surgeon came out of the room to operate on the boy. The surgeon opened the mask. The surgeon said, "Sorry, guys, I can't operate on the boy. This is my son." What's going on? Now, a background information, medical doctors are not allowed to perform services on their children. So when the surgeon realized that this is my son, the surgeon backed away and said to the colleagues, "Take over." So my question is, what's going on? Two or three volunteers, if somebody can answer.
Not sure if I got
Maybe
it
I
right,
can
but
make-
I would say the doctor is probably the mother.
The doctor is probably the mother. Okay, who else? Pardon? Well, it's for you to decide. Yes?
Yes.
If the surgeon is female, then it's the mother.
Okay.
The surgeon is male.
All right. All right. Okay. Yeah, this is I think that you answered very brilliantly. The surgeon could as well be the mother, right? And this experiment has been conducted around the world, and usually what it leads to is that many people have it wrong. And me too, when it was conducted on me, I didn't get it right. And I can assure you, if we had taken your answers independently, right, without hearing each other, it will come to a place. And I try to explain it in the book in this way, that there are some roles that we have stereotypically assigned to women, and there are some roles that we have stereotypically assigned to men. The roles that we think that are strong, medical doctors, etc., we say it's for men. The ones that we think that are weak, we say it's for women. That is how patriarchal structures operate. So now, if you see a man being victimized by a woman, it doesn't align with patriarchal structures. How come a strong man is being victimized by a weak woman? And that informs our biases. And I can read now a passage in the book. It will take just about 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Study on implicit bias. In a study conducted by Michaela Wapman and Deborah Bell at Boston University, participants were presented with a scenario involving a car accident where a father dies and his son needs immediate surgery. When the surgeon arrives and refuses to operate because "this is my son," less than 14% of the 300 participants correctly identified the surgeon as the boy's mother. The majority, 86%, offered explanations like the father being a priest or the surgeon being mistaken, revealing deep-seated gender stereotypes. Now, let me read it from here now. Implicit bias significantly influences how society, service providers, social services, the criminal justice system, and child protection services respond to domestic violence. These biases, defined as internalized stereotypes that unconsciously affect perceptions, actions and decisions lead to unequal treatment based on characteristics like gender. This bias is evident in the different reactions to male and female domestic violence victims. The beliefs and expectations of society shape the establishment and direction of laws and legal institutions. Consequently, the way service providers, consequently, the way society perceives socio-criminological issues plays a crucial role in shaping the response of the criminal justice system. Societal reactions to domestic violence are primarily shaped by cultural beliefs, myths, and stereotypes. For example, there is a pervasive belief that men cannot be emotional because they are strong, regardless of the severity of their injuries. This belief makes it very hard for male targets of domestic violence to receive a fair hearing, justice, or support services. Many studies around the world have revealed that male targets of domestic violence are largely marginalized. In the United States, the Netherlands, and South Africa, the victimization of male targets is often less likely to be investigated by law enforcement than female victimization. This disparity in responses is a direct result of implicit biases that favor certain stereotypes and societal expectations over others. Thank you.
Okay. Also ich glaube, dass ein Mann stark ist, das deckt das natürlich. Ne? Wenn ein Mann kommt und sagt, ich wurde von meiner Frau irgendwie geschlagen, dann glauben die Leute das nicht. Ja? Das ist aber genau das, was er schreibt. Ja? Dass die Gesellschaft die Männer nicht glauben. Und auch die Übung, die er hier vorgezeigt hat, das geht auch in die Richtung. Ja, also, ja, ich weiß nicht, ob er noch was dazu zu sagen hat, aber wir wollen jetzt mit euch oder wir wollen euch die Gelegenheit geben, an Herrn Abongwa ein paar Fragen zu stellen. Und ja, und ich hoffe, dass er dann auch seine Antworten euch irgendwie gelingen kommen wird oder irgendwie zufriedenstellend sein wird. Ist das okay?
Yeah.
Are you prepared?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Also wenn irgendjemand jetzt eine Frage hat, kann Herr Abongwa jetzt stellen, ja? Und ja.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think I understood the concept and your book. And I would like to know, me personally, in my everyday life, how can I approach this problem without like being too political about it, but really just like everyday life, instead of something like, I don't know, tools for everybody that we can use in everyday life. If you see a friend is not doing good and not judge it directly.
I didn't really understand your question. If you can speak louder, please.
Okay. I just wanted to know if, like, in that book you also give tools for everyday situations.
Yes.
For me to see, okay, maybe a friend is not doing good in his relationship. Let me not judge him directly, or how can we go about it?
All right. Yeah. Thank you. I would say that violence is violence, right? And we should look at the actions, not the person. If the action is a violent action, then it's an action that we should discourage. It doesn't matter the gender. And if the person is like suffering from domestic violence, definitely the person needs support, not ridicule or denial. And if you read the book, you come across many such examples where a man is physically being victimized in front of everyone, but instead he is blamed for his own victimization. So I think that we have to step backwards and take a look at our actions, because sometimes our actions doesn't help the situation, it fuels it only more. One thing about violence, especially domestic violence, is that it doesn't stop, it is stopped. If there is no intervention, it will continue. And it is not as a result of provocation, it comes from the internal characteristics of the perpetrator. For example, some people across gender lines, they don't like to hear no. And when you say no, they view it as a challenge to their authority, and then they start to act violently. And so that is one way we can approach the situation more openly.